Hi, this is Craig Molson with the School Community Relations class, and this is my presentation on parental apathy, the case study that we were assigned. The first thing is problem identification and analysis. And what do I know after reading this case study? Some of the things I noticed: Mrs. Rose, it's her first assistant principal job, and it looks like to me she's got her plate full. The school that she is at has poor school community relations at this time. Communication between Mrs. Rose and the principal is not very good right now. She's in a new position and trying to feel her way out with him. The school has no parent groups or organizations at this time. They've tried in the past but have not been successful with it. The principal doesn't feel the parents want to be involved, and he feels that the situation is fine as it is. He has made prior attempts at parent involvement and felt it was not a success. He tried to get volunteers to work in the cafeteria, and that didn't work for him, so he then assumed that nothing was going to work, I guess. He has agreed to allow Mrs. Rose to start an advisory group. And the way they got this information out was they sent a note home with students about the meeting. There are several problems with this, but one of the things I did notice about it was that the note was sent home on a Friday. And then when they did have the meeting, only 8 parents showed up for the meeting. And the principal does not want to go ahead with the meeting. What do I need to know? I would like to know if other attempts, other than the volunteers in the cafeteria, obviously, what other attempts at having parent involvement in the past have been tried. I would also like to know if other schools in this particular district are having success with parent involvement, and if so, what are they doing? What are some of the things that they're doing to make this happen? If they aren't having success, I'd like to know what they've tried, because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel in this situation. You wouldn't want to spend, this is going to be a huge project the way it is, you wouldn't want to spend your time trying things that have already been tried and been unsuccessful. I would like to have a better understanding of the principal. Is he apathetic in other areas, or is it just this particular area? What are his strengths, and how can I possibly communicate with him better? That's going to be very important. Being in the first job, obviously you got to have a good working relationship with the principal, and I would want to know what I could do to help that. Identify the problem. The school community relations is not where it needs to be, obviously. They have nothing to speak of, and that is not going to make for a very positive environment. The principal is satisfied with where this relations are at and does not want to pursue any type of parent organization or make a big deal of it. He has okayed the advisory group, but it needs to be more than that. Proposed plan of action with strategies for implementation. Plan of action and implementation. At the time of the meeting, when only 8 parents show up, I believe you need to go ahead and have the meeting for several reasons. One, you need to show appreciation for those that are there. Even though there's only 8 there, it's still 8 more than you had before the meeting. You can look at it one of 2 ways. You can look at it as there's only 8 people here, or you can look at it as there are 8 people here, and that's a start. If you show these 8 people that you don't appreciate them being there, and you lose those 8 people, then you've lost everybody that you had on board, which wasn't very many to begin with, so you need to treat them well. You need to I think you can turn the low attendance into a positive in this situation. It seems that, yeah, you only have 8 people there, but that gives you a chance to get to know 8 people. In an hour-long meeting with only 8 people, you can get a pretty good feel for what type of people they are and some of their ideas and some of the positive things that they would have to offer. I think in this situation, you need to have some accountability and take some of the blame for the poor turnout. With the note being sent home on a Friday, no less, for a Monday meeting, you can't have real high expectations of the parents even getting the note. During that meeting, I would schedule a second meeting with the help of those attending and take into account their opinions on what needs to happen and times that would be good for the next meeting to take place, and also get their input on getting community members other than just parents involved with the next meeting, so we get ideas from past groups, other community groups, and things that are working for them. The next thing I would need to do is show the principal that this is something that I want to handle and put my effort into, and that I don't have a lot of expectations from him other than his support. I would want to assure him that I'll keep him in the loop on the situation, make sure he knows what's going on. I certainly would not want to exclude him from it. I just would want to be the one leading it. Then we would plan the next meeting. Next thing I would need to do would be develop relationships with available media outlets, whether it be newspaper, TV, radio. It just depends on the community and what options you have available, but you would want to make sure and hit as many of them as possible to make sure that everybody has the best chance possible to get the information, since everybody's going to get information in different ways. You want to stay in contact with the parents that showed up for the first meeting. You got to make sure and keep them on board with everything, because they're going to be a big asset for you as far as getting the word out to the community. I would then make an agenda for the upcoming meeting. I'd want to create an agenda that was going to make for a comfortable environment and make it so people felt like they had the right to speak and could speak freely. You would want to have a good agenda and stay on task. You don't want to look unorganized, but you don't want to look like a dictator either. Then the next thing we would do would be to form an advisory group and get the ball rolling with that. The last thing I put on there would be not to get frustrated. It would be very easy to get frustrated in a situation like this because it's going to take a lot of time and effort. People aren't just going to show up and be ready to do what you're wanting to do. It's going to take time to sell your ideas and get everybody on board, and that all happens after you can get the people there. So just have to keep the big picture in mind and to keep from getting frustrated. After the first meeting, the first thing I would do is inform the principal of the progress and the obstacles that I could foresee, get his input, see what he thinks, ideas, suggestions, just anything to try to get him in working with you in some form. Then I would need to continue to work with the newly formed advisory group. We would need to get ideas, suggestions, whatever it would take, figure out what we're going to do to move forward with this. Also need to continue working with the various media outlets. That's obviously a key component to good school-community relations, and something that started, but again, it's going to take time. Resolve the issue based on promoting the success of all students. What is best for students? I think positive parental involvement is good for any school. It's got to be managed. You don't want it to get out of control. I have a hard time believing that parents don't want to be involved, but for whatever reason they're not at this time, and I think it would be best for the students to have them involved. The positive media relationships would be very good for the students. Get some coverage of their events. It's always fun to see your name in the newspaper, hear your name on the radio, or possibly even see yourself on TV in an athletic event or concert or whatever it might be. Seeing your name in a positive manner is always good, and it gives good positive exposure to the school, and when you have the positive exposure, it makes it a lot easier to get people to back you. Another thing, there have been groups in the past, I don't necessarily know when, but there's got to be some positives that came from those. Trying to do research and get information from teachers that have been there for a while and things like that, and find out why they didn't work, but also find out what the good in them was would be good information to have. It'd also be great to encourage the principal to be involved with the group at some level. His support is needed by myself and also by the group. You're not going to get far without having everybody on the same page. Debrief the problem by reflecting. What was I thinking, feeling, and valuing? I think Mrs. Rose has her plate full, but that's not unexpected. Going into a new position, there's always going to be things that are unexpected and things to overcome. I thought the principal was just trying to get by. I got the feeling it must have been someone close to retirement possibly, or was just burned out on what he was doing. For whatever reason, he just was trying to get by day to day and not really improve anything. I had a hard time believing that the parents would not want to be involved. That just doesn't seem like something that happens very often. Sending the note home was a horrible idea. It's just not a good way to communicate. In this day and age, there's so many more ways of doing that. You probably have an alert now as a possibility where at least the parents are getting the phone call. And also sending it on a Friday for a Monday meeting, one, that's not very much notice. People need more notice than that with busy lives that people lead. And also sending the note home as if that wasn't bad enough, but to do it on a Friday. As we all know, Friday would not be a good day. Friday afternoon would not be a good time to expect something like that to get done. I also felt like the principal was just trying to get Mrs. Rose to go away, just brush her off. Let her schedule this meeting just to appease her, and then it didn't go, or people didn't show up, so he just wanted to be done with it. And then I think he thought that would make her just let it go. Unresolved issues, obviously the relationship with the principal. Their communication needs to be worked on. They need to have a good working relationship, or neither of them are going to be able to do positive things. Still need to improve the overall school community relations. Keep working with the media and exploring more parent and community group options. Checking with other community groups would be good. Get linked up with them to where you can work together and make some positive things happen. Collaborate, reflecting on ISLLC standard number 4, and the collaborating with families and community members. The way I did this was by having the first meeting, even though it had low attendance. I contacted media sources to inform the public of the second meeting that was scheduled, and then also formed the advisory group. How did I respond to diverse needs and interests of the community? I tried to take into account the opinion of the others at the first meeting on what would be a good time to meet again, so we could get as many people there as possible. Used various media sources to try to reach all members of the community. Everybody has a different way of getting their news, so we tried to cover all the bases there. I made the meeting open to all the community, not just parents, trying to get other ideas and information on past groups or groups in other areas and things like that. How did I mobilize community resources to help address and solve problems? Organize the meetings, obviously, talk to local media sources, checked with other schools in the district for ideas that they have had that have been good or bad. And this concludes my presentation on Parental Apathy for School Community Relations. Thank you.